The shield of faith. The Roman soldiers had two kinds of shields in their armory inventory. One was an individual or personal shield. It was round, about 2 feet in diameter, and attached to the arm. It was lightweight and highly mobile, an individual shield. It is important to note that this personal shield is not the one referred to here in Ephesians. The second Roman shield was a much larger shield, about 2.5 feet wide and 4 feet high. It was made of wood and usually covered with a thick layer of leather, often soaked with water, which served to deflect or extinguish any fiery arrows. The second shield, or thurkos, is the shield Paul names here. Though carried by an individual, it was not a personal shield per se. It was always carried in formation. It was the shield intended to protect far more than the individual carrying it. It was intended to defend the group. This is the full-sized buckler which the Roman legions of infantry carried when the legions were marching as a unit. These larger shields were carried in such a way that they packed tightly together, virtually interlocking into a large complex or testudo of shields. By virtue of their being tensely packed together with others, the shields served to defend the whole unit formation. The many became one. Do you see the critical point here? This is the shield of faith, which by design is interlocked with the soldier next to you. This is the shield of faith utilized in a community, the community of faith. In our spiritual battles, as is true in any combat environment, there is no room for lone rangers. If you expect to be protected, you've got to stick with the group, march with the unit, and live like a family. The strength of locking arms or interlocking shields is an indispensable quality for the spirit warrior. For example, I believe if Jonathan had lived, there would have been no Bathsheba episode in David's life. We absolutely need the interlocking effect of souls knit together with fellow spirit warriors if we're going to survive and thrive on the battlefield. Left to ourselves, we are picked off one by one. Get in a group, form up, and lock your shield of faith with the soldier next to you. What is the faith Paul refers to here? Paul is not here describing doctrine or systemic theology, the whole body of truth that we sometimes call the faith. Rather, the faith here refers to a deep, personal, and total trust in God. It is the faith of personal trust in God and His sovereign care. It is the wonderfully freeing confidence of abandonment to God, trusting Him entirely with one's well-being, both present and future. This is the kind of faith which fosters rest in the shadow of the Almighty, that faith which confidently asserts, live or die, I am in the Father's hand, I trust Him with my life, my soul, my all. It's the deep personal trust which Paul expressed in this letter to the Philippians from prison. While he's in prison, possibly chained to a guard, whose equipment he described in Ephesians 6. In the first chapter of Philippians, Paul wrote, "My imprisonment in the cause of Christ has become well known throughout the whole Praetorian Guard and to everyone else. What then? Or, how am I to think of this battle? Only that in every way Christ is proclaimed, and in this I rejoice. Yes, and I will rejoice. For I know that this shall turn out for my deliverance. Christ shall even now, as always, be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. For me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. But if I am to live on in this flesh, this will mean fruitful labor for me, and I do not know which to choose. But I am hard-pressed in both directions, having the desire to depart and be with Christ. For this is very, or far, much more. Yet to remain on in the flesh is more necessary for your sake." Philippians 1, verses 13 and 18 to 24, bracketed words, the author's edition.